Ambassador Hyunwoo Park stood in the massive chamber of the Galactic Council. The room was so big that his voice needed speakers to reach all the alien delegates sitting in floating seats around him. 3 years he had been coming here. 3 years of giving the same message. 3 years of watching alien faces show nothing but boredom and contempt. "I speak again for Earth and all human colonies," Hyunwoo said into the microphone. His words echoed off the crystal walls. "We ask for nothing but peace. We want to be left alone in our territory. Do not send ships to our space. Do not test our borders. This is our final warning." The reaction was the same as always. Some aliens laughed. Others made dismissive gestures with their tentacles or claws. A few simply ignored him and talked among themselves. War Commander Kethvar of the Vorthak Empire stood up from his throne-like seat. The massive warrior was 8 feet tall with gray skin like stone and eyes like burning coals. When he spoke, his voice boomed through the chamber without any speakers. "Human." Kethvar said the word like it tasted bad. "Your species achieved space travel only 200 years ago. You use metal ships and chemical rockets. You fight with projectile weapons like primitive savages. What could you possibly do against the combined might of civilized races?" Other delegates nodded in agreement. The Eschatar representative hissed approval through his reptilian throat. The crystalline beings from the Confederacy chimed in harmonic agreement. Even the bio-organic creatures of the swarm pulsed with what seemed like amusement. Yunwoo felt tired, so very tired. He had been a diplomat for 30 years, but nothing had prepared him for this. These aliens saw humans as children playing with toys. They looked at Earth's military reports and saw outdated technology. They did not understand what they were really seeing. "Commander Kethvar," Hyunwoo said carefully, "I have delivered my government's message. What you do with this information is your choice. But remember that you were warned." Kethvar's laugh was like rocks grinding together. "Warned? By you? Human. My empire has conquered 17 star systems. Our weapons can turn planets to glass. Our shields can stop any energy weapon known to galactic science. Your little ships would be destroyed before they could even get close to our hulls." The War Commander activated a holographic display that showed images of human spacecraft. To alien eyes, they looked pathetic. Simple metal boxes with chemical thrusters and kinetic weapons. No energy shields, no plasma cannons, no gravitational drives. "Look at this primitive garbage," Kethvar announced to the chamber. "These humans still use solid projectiles. They still burn chemicals for propulsion. They build their ships out of raw metal, instead of energy matrices or bioorganic materials. How can such a backward species threaten anyone?" Hyunwoo watched the display and said nothing. Let them think what they wanted to think. Let them see only what they expected to see. It would make no difference in the end. On the other side of the galaxy, Captain Jin A. Kim sat in the command center of Earth Defense Station Alpha. The station was hidden inside a hollowed-out asteroid in the belt between Mars and Jupiter. From the outside, it looked like any other space rock. Inside, it housed the most advanced sensor array humanity had ever built. "Captain," called Lieutenant Youngmin from the communication station, "we're getting reports from our deep space monitoring posts. Large fleet movements in the Vorthak sectors. Looks like they're gathering ships at the Proxima staging area." Jinny studied the data streaming across her screens. The aliens were not even trying to hide their preparations. Why would they? To their thinking, humans had no way to detect ships at such distances. They were wrong, but they did not know they were wrong. "How many ships?" Jinny asked. "Conservative estimate, 40,000. Could be as many as 60,000 when all the Allied fleets arrive." Jinny felt a cold weight in her stomach. Even with all their preparations, those were terrible odds. But orders were orders, and humanity had been preparing for this day for decades. "Send word to Luna Base," she commanded. "Tell Dr. Taemin that Operation Fortress is now active. All defensive systems are to be brought online immediately, deep beneath the surface of Earth's moon." Dr. Taemin Lee received the message he had been dreading and hoping for in equal measure. For 15 years, he had worked on projects that officially did not exist. Projects hidden so deep and classified, files that even most government officials did not know about them. The laboratory around him buzzed with activity. Hundreds of scientists and engineers worked at stations monitoring systems that spanned the entire solar system. On the surface, Luna looked like a peaceful research colony. Beneath the surface, it was the nerve center of the most sophisticated defensive network ever created. Dr. Lee called his assistant Dr. Boram Han. All gravity well generators are responding. Kinetic weapon platforms in the asteroid belt show green status. Stealth field projectors are operating within normal parameters. Taemin nodded. What about the other projects? Project Mjolnir reports ready. Project Ghost Ship shows all vessels prepared for deployment. Project Minefield indicates all devices are armed and waiting. Taemin activated his personal communication device and connected to the secure network that linked Earth's leadership. Within moments, he was speaking directly to the President of the United Earth Government. Madam President, he said, all defensive systems are now active. We are as ready as we can be. The President's voice sounded strained. Doctor, these aliens have thousands of ships. Are you certain our preparations will be enough? Madam President, the aliens are making the same mistake that humans made for centuries. They assume that newer automatically means better. They think that because they evolved past kinetic weapons and chemical propulsion, these technologies are inferior. They are about to learn how wrong they can be. Back in the Galactic Council chambers, War Commander Kethvar was addressing his allies. The other species had agreed to join his campaign against Earth. The humans controlled valuable territory and resources. More importantly, their defeat would send a message to other young species about the price of refusing to join galactic civilization. The human territory will be divided among us according to contribution, Kethvar announced. The Essus Qatar hegemony will take the outer worlds. The Crystalline Confederacy claims the asteroid mining rights. The bioorganic swarm may harvest the biological resources of Earth itself. Ambassador Hyunwoo listened to them plan the destruction of his species and felt something cold settle in his chest. Not fear, not anger. Something else. Something that humans called grim determination. He activated his own communication device and sent a coded message to Earth. 3 simple words. The die cast. On Earth, President Soo-Young Kim received the message in her secure command bunker beneath the Himalayan mountains. She immediately activated the emergency protocols that would prepare humanity for total war. Across human space, military bases went to maximum alert. Civilian populations were moved to underground shelters that had been prepared for decades. Ships that had been disguised as cargo haulers or research vessels dropped their false hulls and revealed their true nature as warships. The aliens would come expecting to fight a primitive species with outdated technology. They would discover something that no galactic intelligence service had detected. Humanity had never stopped developing their primitive technologies. They had spent 2 centuries perfecting them to levels that alien science could not even understand. Captain Min Ho-jung received his orders aboard the stealth destroyer, Silent Thunder. His ship was invisible to every form of detection the galactic community had ever developed. Metamaterial hull coating absorbed all electromagnetic radiation. Quantum field generators made the ship undetectable to gravitational sensors. Even psionic species could not sense the vessel's presence. Captain, his tactical officer reported, we're getting movement reports from the border sensors. Alien fleets are massing for invasion. Minho studied the tactical displays. The aliens had numbers, but they were fighting on humanity's terms now, in human space, with human technology that they did not understand and could not counter. Prepare for immediate deployment, he ordered. All stealth squadrons are to take positions according to Defense Plan Omega. Make sure our friends get the welcome they deserve. War Commander Kethvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, Worldbreaker, and watched his great armada assemble. 62,000 ships from 4 different species, the largest military force ever gathered in galactic history, against one small primitive species that should have been grateful to serve their betters. Communications, he ordered. Send final terms to the humans, unconditional surrender within 1 standard day or we glass their homeworld. The message was sent. The reply came back within hours. Just 2 words. Come try. Kethvar's rage was magnificent to behold. How dare these primitives show such arrogance? They would learn respect the hard way. Fleet commanders, he broadcast to his allied forces. Advance to the human territory, maximum speed. We end this farce immediately. The Great Armada began to move. 62,000 ships heading toward what they thought would be an easy victory. Behind them, they left a galaxy confident that the human problem would soon be solved. None of them realized that they were flying toward a trap that had been 50. The Proxima Centauri system had become the largest military gathering point in galactic history. Ships from 4 different alien civilizations filled the space around the red dwarf star like metal clouds. War Commander Kethvar stood on the observation deck of his flagship and felt satisfaction flow through him like warm blood. "Final count, Fleetmaster?" he asked his subordinate. 62,417 warships, War Commander. The Eschatar hegemony brought 15,000 vessels. The Crystalline Confederacy contributed 12,000. The bio-organic swarm added 18,000 of their growth ships. Combined with our own forces, we have enough firepower to sterilize every planet in human space 10 times over. Kethvar nodded. And their defensive capabilities? Laughable. Sir, our intelligence indicates roughly 3,000 human ships scattered across their territory. Most are converted cargo vessels or research ships with minimal armament. Their largest warship is smaller than our patrol cruisers. The War Commander activated the fleet-wide communication system. Every ship in the Armada could hear his voice as it echoed across space. "Warriors of the galaxy," Kethvar began. "Today, we correct a mistake that should have been fixed decades ago. The humans refuse to acknowledge their proper place in galactic civilization. They hoard resources. They reject our guidance. They dare to claim territory that could be better used by superior species." Cheers and roars came from thousands of ships. Each species made their own sounds of approval. The Vorthak roared like thunder. The Sikatar hissed like steam. The crystalline beings chimed like broken glass. The bioorganic creatures pulsed with excited bioluminescence. These primitives think their chemical rockets and metal bullets can challenge plasma cannons and energy shields, Kethvar continued. They will learn the price of arrogance. We will crush their fleets. We will occupy their worlds. We will show the galaxy what happens to species that refuse the wisdom of their betters. Meanwhile, deep in the Sol system, Fleet Admiral Su Jin Choi watched the alien gathering through sensors that the enemy did not know existed. Her command center was hidden inside Ceres, the largest asteroid in the belt between Mars and Jupiter. From outside, it looked like a mining station. Inside, it housed the most advanced military computer systems humanity had ever built. "Admiral," reported her intelligence officer, "the alien fleet is beginning to move. Estimated arrival in human space 48 hours. Su Jin studied the tactical displays showing the massive alien armada. Every ship was highlighted and classified. Human intelligence had been watching these species for decades, learning their technology, their tactics, their weaknesses. "What's their formation?" she asked. "Classic galactic standard, Admiral. Heavy battleships in the center, cruisers and destroyers on the flanks, support vessels in the rear. They're not even attempting stealth or deception." Su Jin almost smiled. "Why would they? They think we're primitives with no long-range sensors. They don't know we've been tracking their movements since they left their home systems." She activated her command console and connected to the other human commanders throughout the solar system. "All stations, this is Fleet Command. Enemy fleet is en route. Estimated contact in 2 days. Execute plan revelation." On Luna Base, Dr. Bo-Ram Han received the activation codes for Project Mjolnir. For 10 years, her team had been placing mass drivers throughout the asteroid belt. To casual observation, they looked like mining equipment. In reality, they were the most powerful kinetic weapons ever constructed. Each mass driver could accelerate a tungsten rod the size of a telephone pole to 15% of light speed. At that velocity, the projectile carried more kinetic energy than a nuclear warhead. Better yet, there was no flash, no radiation signature, no energy bloom that alien sensors could detect until impact. "Dr. Han," called her chief engineer. "All Mjolnir platforms report ready status. We have 347 mass drivers online and targeted. Boram nodded grimly. The aliens had no idea what was waiting for them. Their energy shields were designed to deflect plasma bolts and particle beams. They had never encountered pure kinetic weapons traveling at relativistic speeds. Begin final targeting calculations, she ordered. We'll only get one chance at surprise. Captain. Minho Jung piloted his stealth destroyer through the outer solar system, invisible to all known forms of detection. His ship was one of 50 vessels in the Ghost Fleet, humanity's secret weapon against alien surveillance. The Silent Thunder used metamaterial hull coating that absorbed all electromagnetic radiation from radio waves to gamma rays. Quantum. Dampening fields prevented gravitational detection. The ship's fusion reactor was cooled to near absolute zero, eliminating heat signatures. Captain, his sensor officer whispered, though there was no need for quiet in the vacuum of space. Alien. Fleet has crossed the heliopause. They're officially in our territory now. Minho checked his tactical display. The alien armada was moving in a straight line toward Earth, not even bothering to scout ahead or check for ambushes. Their arrogance was breathtaking. Signal the other ghost ships, he ordered. Begin positioning for Phase 1. War Commander. Kethvar stood on his bridge and watched the human star system grow larger on the main screen. Sol was a yellow dwarf star, unremarkable except for the primitive species that had evolved on its third planet. Fleetmaster, he called. Any response from the humans? Nothing, War Commander. No communications, no fleet movements, no defensive preparations that we can detect. Kethvar frowned. He had expected at least some resistance, even primitive. Species usually tried to defend themselves. Were the humans planning to surrender without a fight? Continue scanning, he ordered. I want to know the location of every human ship in this system. What Kethvar did not know was that human ships were all around him. 50 stealth destroyers shadowed his fleet, invisible and silent. Hundreds of disguised weapons platforms waited. Among the asteroids, thousands of automated defense systems lay dormant on moons and planetoids throughout the system. Commander Yejin-O coordinated the defense from Titan Station, hidden beneath the ice of Saturn's largest moon. Her screens showed the alien fleet's approach in real time, tracked by sensors the enemy could not detect. All defensive platforms report ready, her tactical officer announced. Gravity well generators are online. Kinetic barriers are deployed. All personnel are in position. Yejin felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. Humanity had spent 50 years preparing for this moment. Everything depended on the next few hours. Signal all units, she commanded. Weapons free when the enemy reaches the Neptune perimeter. Show them what happens when you threaten Earth. Dr. Seung-Ho Kim worked frantically in his laboratory deep beneath Europa's ice sheet. His gravity well generators were humanity's most closely guarded secret. Using principles of space-time manipulation that alien science had never discovered, the devices could create localized gravitational anomalies. Doctor, his assistant called. The alien fleet is approaching the outer system. Should we activate the gravity nets? Seung-Ho checked his calculations one final time. The generators would create invisible walls of twisted space-time that would tear apart any ship trying to pass through them. But they had to be precisely timed and positioned. Not yet, he replied. Let them get deeper into the system first. We want them committed to their course when we spring the trap. The alien armada continued its advance, confident and arrogant. War Commander Kethvar had divided his forces into 3 attack groups. The first would destroy any human ships they encountered. The second would bombard military installations. The third would begin orbital bombardment of Earth itself. War Commander, his communications officer reported. We're receiving a transmission from the human homeworld. Put it on. Screen. The image that appeared showed a human female in military uniform. She appeared calm and confident, showing no fear despite facing annihilation. I am Fleet Admiral Soo-Jin Choi of the Earth Defense Force, the woman said. You have entered human territory without permission. You have threatened our worlds and our people. You have one opportunity to turn around and leave. This is your only warning. Kithvar's laughter boomed across the bridge. Their only warning? Human. You face the greatest military force in galactic history. Your pathetic ships are no match for our combined fleets. Surrender now and some of your people may be allowed to live as slaves. The human admiral's expression did not change. We offered you peace. We asked only to be left alone. You chose war. Remember that choice in the hours to come. The transmission ended. Kethvar turned to his fleet commanders. Accelerate to attack speed. I want this system conquered before the Galactic News Services arrived to record our victory. What the aliens did not realize was that every human defensive system was now tracking their movements. Kinetic weapons platforms calculated firing solutions. Stealth ships moved into attack positions. Gravity generators prepared to create space-time traps. The humans had learned something important from their violent evolutionary history. The best defense was often a devastating offense. The aliens expected to fight primitive opponents using outdated tactics. They were about to encounter the most sophisticated military technology in the galaxy, wielded by a species that had perfected the art of war over. Captain Dong Hyun Yu watched the alien vanguard approach on his tactical display. 20,000 enemy ships advancing in perfect formation toward Neptune's orbit. His own force consisted of just 12 human patrol vessels that looked pathetic compared to the massive alien battleships. Captain, his weapons officer called out. Enemy fleet will be in range in 15 minutes. Dong-hyun nodded calmly. Signal all ships. Execute Plan Matador on my mark. Remember, we're not here to win a fight, we're here to lead them into one. The alien ships were magnificent and terrible. Vorthak battleships the size of city blocks, bristling with plasma cannons. Eschatar cruisers that moved like metal serpents through space. Crystalline Confederacy vessels that looked like giant diamonds floating through the void. Bioorganic swarm ships that pulsed with living light. War Commander Kethvar stood on his flagship's bridge and felt satisfaction flow through him. The humans had finally sent ships to meet his fleet. 12 tiny vessels against 20,000 warships. It would be over in seconds. Open fire when in range, he commanded. Destroy them all. The alien weapons lit up space like a festival of death. Plasma bolts the size of buildings streaked toward the human ships. Particle beams that could melt asteroid rock. Energy missiles that tracked their targets across thousands of kilometers. The human ships immediately began evasive maneuvers. To alien eyes, it looked like panic. The small vessels scattered and fled toward Neptune's outer moons, their chemical thrusters leaving bright trails in the darkness. Pursue them, Kethvar ordered. Don't let any escape to warn their homeworld. The alien vanguard gave chase, their formation breaking up as different ship types moved at different speeds. The faster Siktar cruisers pulled ahead. The massive Vorthak battleships followed more slowly. The crystalline ships moved in perfect geometric patterns. The bioorganic vessels flowed like schools of fish through space. Captain Dong Hyun watched his pursuers on the rear sensors and smiled grimly. The aliens were doing exactly what human planners had predicted. They were so confident of victory that they weren't bothering with proper tactics or formation discipline. All ships, prepare for phase transition, he broadcast on the encrypted channel. Mark in 30 seconds. What the aliens didn't know was that the human ships weren't really fleeing. They were leading the enemy into a carefully prepared kill zone among Neptune's 13 major moons. Hidden weapons platforms had been waiting there for decades, camouflaged as research stations and mining facilities. Mark, Dong-hyun called out. 12 human ships suddenly reversed course and accelerated directly toward their pursuers. At the same moment, Neptune's moons came alive with weapons fire. The first shot came from the railgun batteries hidden on Triton. Electromagnetic accelerators the size of skyscrapers hurled tungsten projectiles at 10% of light speed. The alien ships had energy shields designed to deflect plasma and particle beams. They were completely useless against solid matter traveling at relativistic velocities. The leading Eschatar cruiser simply exploded. One moment, it was a kilometer-long warship pursuing fleeing humans. The next moment, it was expanding debris and superheated gas. The tungsten rod had passed completely through the ship, hull, shields, and all. What was that? War Commander Kethvar demanded from his flagship, still minutes behind the vanguard. Unknown weapon type, War Commander. The humans appear to be Using some form of kinetic projectile system. Impossible. Kinetic weapons are primitive technology. They can't penetrate modern shields. But the evidence was right there on his screens. Human weapons were tearing through alien ships like they had no protection at all. The crystalline vessels of the Confederacy were particularly vulnerable. Their energy absorption matrices were designed to convert incoming energy weapons into power for their own systems. Kinetic projectiles just smashed through their crystal hulls like hammers through glass. Commander Ye Jin. O coordinated the ambush from her hidden command center on Titan. Her screen showed the alien fleet spreading, out among Neptune's moons, walking straight into the trap. All platforms engage at will, she commanded. Priority targets are command ships and carriers. Let's break their coordination first. Hidden weapons emerged from camouflaged positions throughout the Neptune system. Mass drivers that looked like ore processing equipment. Missile batteries disguised as communication arrays. Defensive positions that had been built inside hollowed-out asteroids and minor moons. The bioorganic swarm discovered that their living ships had a critical weakness. Dr. Shung Ho Kim's Chemical Warfare Division had spent years developing toxins specifically designed to target alien biology. Aerosol clouds of engineered viruses spread through space, carried by tiny delivery drones that looked like space debris. When the bioorganic ships tried to filter the contamination through their living hulls, the toxins went to work immediately. Ship organisms that had lived for centuries began dying in minutes. Their death throes sent shockwaves through the swarm's collective consciousness. Status report, War Commander Kethvar roared as his vanguard disintegrated around Neptune. 40% casualties in the first wave, War Commander. The humans have weapons we've never encountered. Our shields are ineffective. Our electronic warfare systems can't lock onto their targeting systems. Kethvar felt something he hadn't experienced in decades of conquest. Doubt. How were primitive humans destroying ships that had conquered star systems? All vessels, fall back and regroup, he ordered. Prepare for coordinated bombardment of human positions. But the humans weren't finished. Captain Min Ho Jung's stealth destroyers had been moving into position during the initial attack. Now, they struck from complete invisibility. The silent thunder materialized behind a massive Vorthak battleship and unleashed its full payload of kinetic torpedoes at point-blank range. The alien vessel's rear shields were designed to protect against energy weapons from other ships. They offered no protection against solid projectiles fired from inside their defensive perimeter. All across the battle zone, human stealth ships appeared from nothingness, struck with devastating effectiveness, and vanished again. The aliens found themselves fighting ghosts that could hit them but couldn't be hit back. Dr. Bo-Ram Han watched the battle from her control center on Luna and felt grim satisfaction. Project Mjolnir was performing exactly as designed. Her mass drivers throughout the asteroid belt were picking off alien ships with surgical precision. Dr. Han, her targeting specialist, reported, "We're getting excellent results from the relativistic projectiles. Alien shield technology appears completely ineffective against kinetic weapons at these velocities. Continue firing," Bo-Ram ordered. "Target their command vessels and support ships, break their ability to coordinate." The aliens were learning a harsh lesson about the difference between technological advancement and technological effectiveness. They had evolved past primitive kinetic weapons in favor of energy-based systems. Humans had perfected those primitive weapons to levels that alien science couldn't match. War Commander Kethvar received reports from across his fleet. Ship after ship was being destroyed by weapons that his technology couldn't defend against. Worse, his forces couldn't even locate most of the human attackers. "How many ships have we lost?" he demanded. 8,000 confirmed destroyed, War Commander. Another 3,000 severely damaged. The humans appear to have turned this entire system into a fortress. 8,000 ships, nearly half his vanguard force, destroyed in less than an hour of combat, against an enemy that was supposed to be primitive and helpless. "Signal the main fleet," Kethvar ordered. "Full acceleration. We overwhelm them with numbers." But even as he gave the order, Kethvar wondered if numbers would be enough. The humans were fighting unlike any species he had ever encountered. They used weapons that galactic science had abandoned centuries ago, but somehow made them more effective than the most advanced alien technology. Captain Dong Hyun Yu regrouped his surviving ships and prepared for the next phase of the battle. His small fleet had suffered casualties, but they had accomplished their mission. The alien vanguard was scattered and demoralized. All ships, fall back to position Charlie, he commanded. Let them think they're driving us off. We'll hit them again at the Saturn perimeter. The retreat was carefully planned. Human ships fled deeper into the solar system, apparently defeated by superior numbers. The aliens followed, confident that they were finally gaining the upper hand. They had no idea that they were being led into an even more sophisticated trap. The human defensive network had multiple layers, each one designed to inflict maximum casualties while drawing the enemy deeper into the kill zone. Dr. Shung Ho Kim activated the gravity well generators hidden throughout the outer solar system. Invisible to alien sensors, these devices began creating localized distortions in space-time itself. The first alien ships to encounter the gravity well simply came apart. Their hulls couldn't withstand the tidal forces created by artificial gravitational gradients. Ships that had survived direct weapons fire were torn to pieces by the fundamental forces of the universe. What's happening to our ships? War Commander Kethvar demanded as more vessels disappeared from his tactical display. Unknown, War Commander. They appear to be encountering some form of gravitati. War Commander Kethvar stared at his tactical display in disbelief. 15,000 ships, gone. Destroyed by weapons that his best scientists insisted were impossible. The greatest military force in galactic history was being torn apart by primitive humans who should have surrendered the moment they saw his armada. War Commander, his fleet intelligence officer reported. We've lost contact with the entire outer system vanguard. Last reports indicated massive casualties from unknown weapon systems. Kethvar felt rage building in his chest like molten metal. How dare these primitives resist their betters? How dare they inflict such losses on civilized forces? Signal all remaining ships, he commanded. Full attack formation. We advance on their homeworld immediately. No more games. No more probing. Attacks. We glass their planet and end this humiliation. What Kethvar didn't realize was that the humans had never intended to defend passively. While he planned his assault on Earth, Admiral Jae-sung Park was launching Operation Earthfall from hidden bases throughout the solar system. The operation's name was deliberately misleading. Instead of defending Earth from falling attackers, humanity was about to bring the war directly to the alien fleet. All strike forces, this is Fleet Command. Admiral Park broadcast on encrypted channels. Execute Operation Earthfall. Show these invaders what human warfare really looks like. Captain Young-Soo Kang received the signal aboard his assault transport, Righteous Fury. His ship carried 300 Marines in powered combat armor, armed with weapons designed specifically for fighting alien opponents. Marines, Kang announced over the ship's intercom. Time to show these aliens why every predator species in Earth's history learned to fear humans. Boarding operations commence in 30 minutes. The powered armor that human Marines wore was a perfect example of humanity's approach to technology. While other species had developed energy shields and exotic defensive systems, humans had perfected simple metal and ceramic armor to levels that alien science couldn't match. Each suit contained micro-fusion reactors, electromagnetic muscle enhancers, and targeting computers that could track hundreds of targets simultaneously. But most importantly, they were built by a species that understood violence at a fundamental level. Lieutenant Haewon Lee sat in the Cyber Warfare Center aboard the stealth carrier, Digital Ghost. Her team had spent years studying alien computer systems through intercepted transmissions and captured equipment. Now they were ready to put that knowledge to use. Target the hegemony ships first, she instructed her team. Their bio-neural networks are vulnerable to chaos algorithms. Then move on to the crystalline systems with the quantum viruses. What the aliens didn't understand was that human computer science had developed along completely different lines. While galactic civilizations used organic neural networks or crystalline matrices, humans had perfected silicon-based digital systems that thought in ways alien minds couldn't comprehend. The first cyber attack hit the Eschatar hegemony fleet like a digital plague. Human viruses based on quantum uncertainty principles infected their bio-neural command networks. Ships that had functioned perfectly for centuries suddenly found their control systems making random decisions. War Commander called his SS Qatar liaison, panic clear in his reptilian voice. Our ships are losing command control. Weapon systems are firing randomly. Navigation computers are plotting courses into stellar masses. Before Cathvar could respond, the Crystalline Confederacy ships began reporting similar problems. Their crystalline computer matrices, designed to process information at the speed of light, became trapped in recursive logic loops that consumed all their processing power. Captain Minho Jung's stealth destroyers struck next. The Silent Thunder materialized inside the alien formation like a ghost made solid. At point-blank range, human kinetic weapons were devastatingly effective. The aliens finally understood why humans had never abandoned primitive technologies. They hadn't abandoned them. They had perfected them beyond alien comprehension. Human kinetic weapons hit with the force of stellar collisions. Human armor could shrug off energy weapons that would vaporize other materials. Human computers thought in ways that alien minds couldn't predict or counter. Dr. Sujin Lim activated the next phase of the Human Defense Network. For decades, her teams had been mapping alien faster-than-light travel routes through careful observation and analysis. Now she triggered the gravity mines that had been placed at critical navigation points throughout the system. The alien fleet discovered that every escape route had been blocked. Jump points that should have allowed instant travel to other star systems were now surrounded by gravitational anomalies that would tear apart any ship attempting to use them. We're trapped, War Commander Kethvar realized with growing horror. They've cut off all our escape routes. How did primitives develop gravitational manipulation technology? His science officer was frantically checking readings from their sensors. War Commander, these gravity distortions are beyond our understanding. The humans appear to have weaponized space-time itself. Captain Dong Hyun Yu led his reformed patrol fleet in hit-and-run attacks against the scattered alien forces. The enemy ships were larger and more heavily armed, but they couldn't hit targets they couldn't see coming. Human ships would appear from behind asteroids or planetary bodies, unleash devastating kinetic barrages, and disappear again before the aliens could respond. Each attack was precisely coordinated to inflict maximum damage while avoiding retaliation. Captain, his tactical officer reported, alien fleet coordination is breaking down. They're firing on each other in some cases. Command and control appears completely disrupted. Dong Hyun nodded grimly. Signal Admiral Park, Phase 1 objectives achieved. Request permission to begin hunter-killer operations. The permission came back immediately. Now the real hunt began. Commander, Ye Jin. O coordinated the systematic destruction of the alien fleet from her command center on Titan. Her displays showed the enemy forces scattered throughout the solar system, cut off from escape, unable to coordinate their movements. All defensive platforms, she broadcast. Switch to hunter-killer mode. Priority targets are any ships attempting to regroup or establish communications. The hidden weapons platforms throughout the solar system began moving. Installations that the aliens had thought were static defense positions revealed themselves to be mobile weapons platforms disguised as asteroids and space debris. Human engineering had created mobile fortresses that could accelerate at hundreds of gravities while maintaining perfect targeting accuracy. Each platform carried enough firepower to destroy an entire alien battle group. War Commander Kethvar watched his great armada disintegrate around him. Ships were being picked off one by invisible attackers. Communication networks were corrupted by computer viruses. Escape routes were blocked by gravitational traps. How many ships do we have left? He asked his surviving staff. Less than 20,000, War Commander, and those numbers are dropping every minute. We've lost all contact with our support fleets. Many of our warships are reporting critical system failures. 20,000 ships out of an original force of over 60,000. Lost in less than 6 hours of combat against a species that was supposed to be primitive and helpless. Captain Young-Soo Kang's Marines began their boarding operations against crippled alien vessels. Human soldiers in powered armor moved through alien ship corridors like angels of death, their enhanced reflexes and superior training making them nearly unstoppable. The aliens discovered that humans were not just technologically dangerous, they were physically terrifying. Enhanced by their armor systems, human soldiers could move faster, hit harder, and endure more damage than any known species. "Clear the bridge," Kang ordered as his Marines stormed through a Vorthak battleship. "Secure the command systems, download everything in their computers." The aliens were learning that humans approached warfare differently than any galactic civilization. Where other species fought for territory or resources, humans fought for survival. And a species fighting for survival would use any weapon, any tactic, any advantage to ensure victory. Dr. Boram Han's mass drivers continued their systematic bombardment of alien formations. Each tungsten projectile was precisely targeted to inflict maximum damage. Command ships, support vessels, and communication relays were prioritized for destruction. Dr. Han, her targeting specialist, reported, "Alien fleet is attempting to form a defensive perimeter around their remaining command ships." "Denied," Boram replied coldly. "Target all command vessels simultaneously, full saturation bombardment, and their ability to coordinate." The mass driver platforms throughout the asteroid belt spoke as one. Hundreds of relativistic projectiles streaked toward the alien formation at the same moment. No amount of evasive action could avoid such a coordinated attack. The remaining alien command ships simply ceased to exist. One moment they were desperately trying to maintain order in their scattered fleet. The next moment they were expanding clouds of superheated plasma. War Commander Kethvar felt the bridge of his flagship shake as human weapons found their mark. His ship's hull was breached in 17 places. Life support was failing. His weapons systems were offline. "War Commander," his communications officer called out. "We're 3 months after the Battle of Sol." Ambassador Hyunwoo Park stood once again in the chambers of the Galactic Council. But everything had changed. The floating seats that once held arrogant alien delegates now contained beings who watched his every word with barely concealed fear. The great chamber was quieter than Hyunwoo had ever heard it. No dismissive laughter, no contemptuous gestures, no aliens talking among themselves while he spoke. Every eye, tentacle, and sensor was focused on him with the kind of attention usually reserved for natural disasters. "Honored delegates," Hyunwoo began, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber without need for amplification. "I return to address this council not as a supplicant seeking acceptance, but as the representative of humanity's new position in galactic affairs." The silence that followed was complete. Even the chamber's environmental system seemed to whisper more quietly. Fleet Admiral Sujin Choi stood beside the ambassador, her Earth Defense Force uniform displaying ribbons and decorations that had never existed before the war. She activated a holographic display that filled the center of the chamber with images of the recent battle. "For the benefit of those who missed our previous demonstration," Sujin said calmly, "I present the complete tactical record of what your media has termed the Sol Massacre." The hologram showed the alien armada in all its terrible magnificence. 62,000 ships approaching Earth with absolute confidence. Then came the human response. Invisible ships materializing from nothingness, kinetic weapons tearing through energy shields like paper, gravity wells ripping apart vessels that had conquered star systems. The delegates watched their great armada disintegrate in 6 hours of combat. Ships that had been the pride of their civilizations reduced to expanding clouds of debris. Command vessels vanishing under precisely targeted bombardments. Entire fleets scattered and hunted down like prey animals. "Final casualty report," Sujin continued in the same calm tone. 57,431 alien vessels destroyed. 3,897 vessels captured or surrendered. Only 872 ships escaped the Sol system, most of them severely damaged. A ripple of shock went through the chamber. The numbers were even worse than the preliminary reports. The greatest military force in galactic history had been essentially annihilated by a species that most delegates had considered primitive. Dr. Woo Jin Nam stepped forward to address the scientific implications. The elderly researcher had spent his career studying comparative military technology, and his analysis had become required reading throughout the galaxy. "Honored delegates," Dr. Nam began, "your military planners made a fundamental error in assessing human capabilities. You assumed that technological advancement follows a linear path, that newer automatically means better. He activated his own holographic display, showing the development of various galactic technologies over time. Energy weapons, plasma shields, bio-neural computers, crystalline matrices, all representing the abandonment of earlier supposedly primitive technologies. Humanity chose a different path, Dr. Nam continued. We never abandoned kinetic weapons, we perfected them. We didn't replace chemical propulsion, we enhanced it. We didn't discard metal armor, we evolved it. While you moved beyond these technologies, we pushed them to their absolute limits. The display showed human mass drivers accelerating projectiles to relativistic speeds. Kinetic energy that exceeded nuclear weapons. Armor materials that could shrug off energy weapons designed to melt asteroids. Stealth technology that made ships completely invisible to sensors that could detect quantum fluctuations. The result, Dr. Nam explained, is a technological base that your science cannot counter because your science abandoned these principles centuries ago. You developed weapons to fight yourselves. We developed weapons to fight anyone. In the witness section, War Commander Kethvar sat in restraints that looked decorative, but were actually stronger than the hull armor of most starships. The once proud warrior had survived the battle barely, when his flagship's life support failed and he was forced to surrender. When called upon to testify, Kethvar spoke in a voice that carried none of his former arrogance. Honored Council, I have conquered 17 star systems in 40 years of warfare. I have faced every known form of military technology. I believed I understood the nature of galactic combat. He paused, his gray skin pale with remembered terror. I was wrong. The humans fight unlike any species in known space. They do not simply defeat their enemies. They systematically destroy every aspect of enemy capability. Their weapons, their tactics, their strategic thinking, all of it designed for total victory through total annihilation of opposition. Kethvar's testimony continued for hours, detailing human military capabilities that defied everything galactic science believed possible. Ships that could not be detected by any known sensor system. Weapons that ignored all forms of defensive technology. Computer viruses that could corrupt any known system architecture. Most terrifying, Kethvar concluded, is their unity. Every human military unit fought with perfect coordination. Every human commander understood their role in a greater plan. Every human soldier was willing to die to protect their species. They fight as one organism with billions of minds. Captain Yoonji Seo stood to address the Council's questions about humanity's territorial expansion. The young officer had been tasked with establishing Earth's new borders, a responsibility that would have been unthinkable just months before. Effective immediately, Captain Seo announced. Human territory extends to encompass the following star systems. The list that followed included some of the most valuable real estate in the local galactic arm. Systems that had been contested by major powers for centuries were now simply declared to belong to humanity. Any objections to these territorial claims may be filed through proper diplomatic channels, Seo continued with barely concealed amusement. However, given recent events, we strongly recommend that all neighboring civilizations focus on negotiating trade agreements rather than territorial disputes. The implied threat was clear. Humanity now possessed the most powerful military force in known space, and they were not asking permission to expand their territory. Reserve Admiral Myung-Ho Shin took the podium to address an issue that had shocked the galactic community almost as much as the military victory itself. Earth was accepting alien volunteers for their defense forces. The Earth Defense Force is proud to announce our new integration program, Admiral Shin said. We are accepting qualified personnel from all galactic civilizations who wish to serve, alongside human forces. The chamber erupted in surprised chatter. Alien species volunteering to serve under human command. The idea would have been absurd just months ago. Our training programs are rigorous, Shin continued, but fair. Alien personnel who meet our standards will be granted full citizenship in human space and protection under Earth Defense Force authority. What the Admiral didn't mention was that thousands of aliens were already applying. The galaxy's military professionals had studied the Battle of Sol and reached an obvious conclusion. If you couldn't beat the humans, You definitely wanted them on your side. Dr. Taemin Lee presented the final element of humanity's new position. The research director had been authorized to share selected human technologies with allied civilizations, creating a new power dynamic in galactic affairs. Earth is prepared to enter into technology-sharing agreements with friendly governments, Dr. Lee announced. Our gravitational manipulation systems, kinetic weapon platforms, and stealth technologies are available for licensed production under appropriate security arrangements. The offer was as calculated as it was generous. Human technology was now the gold standard for military effectiveness. Any civilization that wanted to remain relevant would need access to human innovations. The council session continued for days as the full implications of humanity's victory became clear. The galactic balance of power had shifted dramatically. Species that had ruled star systems for millennia now found themselves negotiating with a race they had dismissed as primitives just months before. Ambassador Hyunwoo Park delivered the closing address, summarizing humanity's position in the new galactic order. "For 3 years I stood in this chamber asking for nothing but peace," he said. "I warned you repeatedly to stay away from human space. I pleaded with you to let us exist in isolation. You chose to interpret our peaceful nature as weakness." His voice carried across the silent chamber with quiet authority. "You sent the greatest military force in galactic history to destroy us. You planned to enslave our survivors and divide our worlds among yourselves. You believed that superior numbers and advanced technology guaranteed victory." Hyunwoo paused, letting the weight of recent events settle on his audience. "You learned that humans have a different definition of advanced technology. You discovered that we approach warfare from perspectives your military theory never considered. Most importantly, you found out what happens when a species that has survived millions of years of natural selection on a deathworld decides that their survival is threatened." The ambassador activated a final holographic display showing the current state of human space. What had once been a small, isolated territory around a